we've literally been indoctrinated from a very young age
And suppression.
to numb, suppress, to not feel. And then our feminine has been, even like globally across the world, like the feminine has been suppressed so bad that half the time people are just wandering around like purely masculine energy without their Shakti, without their fun, without like their play, without their joy, without their pleasure.
Without being able to cry at the beauty that's,
of life.
nature presents you with. It's like, I cannot shed no tears. I'm not weak. Like, how did we accept these things to be true?
I don't think it is, Welcome! Welcome to the next episode of Modern Shakti Files with me and Maya. And today we are going to be demystifying Kundalini energy and Kundalini Shakti. And we are going to try and put this in terms of scientific way of viewing things and also biological. So we thought this was really, really important to help ground and also, put it into like real life. How is it moving through your body? What does it mean? And all of these different things. So Maya, if you want to start with talking about your perspective on Kundalini as a whole, and then I can jump in.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so important to talk and have these kind of discussions because we can only integrate and learn and understand what is practical and accessible. It serves us no good to keep Kundalini in this mystical little fog out there and keep on intellectualizing. So what I love to always speak about and remind anyone who asks me, what is Kundalini? I always refer to it as Kundalini Shakti, which is our life force energy. We spoke about this briefly in our first episode, but going a little bit deeper into it and beyond the practical terms of having this life force energy sitting at the base of our spine, and then this energy kind of starting to move and expand as it's kind of clearing and releasing all the distortions that are stored in the body. This energy is also pure life force energy. So it is in every living being. We happen to use the term Kundalini Shakti because we resonate deeply with that. But in other cultures, it can be used as life force energy, as chi, and it manifests in so many different ways. It has different frequencies, which is something we will speak about a little bit later when we talked about the different modalities, to be able to understand the difference of frequencies in the energy. But as a base, as a common denominator, we're talking about pure life force energy, our power, our Shakti, that feminine current of creation and manifestation that moves through every living being and constantly keeps on moving and evolving. And there is obviously the whole concept of why she wants to reunite with Shiva, pure consciousness and stillness. And is this forever constant dance of creation, keep repeating
and
itself.
awareness.
And that energy. Pardon?
Yeah. I said awareness. So like my yogi master says, like we're all given this life force, we're all given Shakti, we all have Shakti within us, and we all have awareness, which is Shiva. And it's correct. What do we do with that awareness? Exactly. What are we doing with that creative force and awareness? And most people in their lives, they don't necessarily use that force for the betterment of good, and they don't realize that that's what they're doing at any given time. We are always creating. We are creators in nature, whether or not we realize that we are doing them things. We're creators in we're all creators.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop. Creation constantly keeps on moving and flowing through us. Even when we perceive something coming to an end, it's just a mere transition into a new cycle. which is why it's another aspect of the feminine current, because nothing truly ends, it constantly transforms. And we often find suffering when we resist these natural cycles, like we disconnected from the feminine wisdom within ourselves, our Shakti Kundalini, and the feminine wisdom that we live on, like our connection to Mother Earth. Everything lives in cycles, everything moves through a cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's really important to know is that in terms of biology and science, so we all have in the body, we have a nervous system which is depicted kind of like a tree, which is really, really cool. And we all have that nervous system running through our body. It runs along the base of the spine, connects to the brain, and
through our vagus nerve. Maybe we can put a little picture.
Nerve.
Yeah, the traveler, the nerve, the
Yeah.
traveling nerve, basically, that runs through the whole spine for reference. Yeah.
Yeah. So the nervous system, that is formed, it starts in the womb. Like energetically, you get a lot of things from your parents transferred. And as you experience life, your nervous system is being formed from the ages of 0 to 7, like more. We're purely subconscious, which means that everything that you're experiencing is being filtered into your subconscious, into your nervous system. And anything that we experience that might be traumatic, that might be too much, too soon, too quick for the nervous system to metabolize and for the energy to move and complete through the system, will remain stuck in the system, will remain stuck in the nervous system, in the body. And why this is important is that every emotion that you have not expressed is a form of energy that resides in the body, that resides in the spine, that resides in the energy field. So when people talk about things like a traumatic experience, that's a visceral experience that can be left in the body. So when you are experiencing a life event where your nervous system perceives this is happening again, I've been here before, that triggers within the body the fight or flight system. And when that fight or flight system is triggered, it brings on all of these nervous fight or flight energies. So if you like watch my body now, let's imagine my system's just being triggered. I'm going to have a lot of energy, a lot of sensation, getting my body prepared to a risk, to fight something that I'm perceiving as a threat.
And I also just wanted to touch on that before you continue. Don't forget that train of thoughts, because it's very important. But in terms of trauma, I just wanted to highlight that trauma is not only what we have perceived as trauma. So we often think that trauma is like these very extreme events that has happened to us and we are aware of. And that's partially true, but there's also another layer that the body stores, which our conscious mind didn't even perceive as trauma. And it could have been something super insignificant in a way. But like you said, at the time, we didn't have the capacity to fully metabolize or alchemize what's happening, making sense of it, or being able to complete the cycle of that emotion. So therefore, it can be something very minor, like maybe when you were 5 years old, you perceived your mother being super upset and absent, and you didn't have the emotional intelligence or just generally the capacity to understand that it has nothing to do with you. She's upset about something else. So that little girl or little boy that is inside of you has stored that experience in the body as being fearful and abandoned. And that's not something you will remember as, oh yeah, when I was 5 years old, my mom ignored me, but the body remembers it. So when you actually drop into a somatic energy healing session, you will have that, perhaps we're touching on that particular cycle that is ready to be cleared out without story being attached to it. Sometimes you might remember, you see what is actually being released, and you can feel the sensation of that emotion finally expressing itself and completing the cycle. So trauma can be so many different things.
Yeah, that was really, really helpful. And I think that what is really important to understand is that sometimes, well, a lot of the time, your nervous system being triggered, it's through a thought alone. So let's say, for example, you are at your desk at work and you remember you left the hob on, and you're like, oh my god, shit, like I've left the hob on. And that creates that creates this feeling in the system, like there's a real life danger, there's a real life threat. And we're in this world where people have become that desensitized, their bodies have become that desensitized, that they're in environments and they're around people and their body is consistently alerting them to a threat. But because they're disconnected from their bodies, they don't know that this is happening. So people are running around with their nervous system activated left, right, and centre, and not really understanding what's going on within their body, within their being. So this is why we're trying to demystify Kundalini in terms of it is your life force, but when your life force is being used to protect yourself against all of these imaginary threats in your external reality, you have less life force for creation. You have less life force to create the dream kind of life that you want. So is there anything that you want to add in terms of the nervous system, Maia, and how it relates to energy? Because in essence, your nervous system is what your life force moves through. Yeah, that's what your nervous system is, the system in which your energy and your energy cycles move through.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something else that I know I keep repeating in every episode, that one of the biggest symptoms for me when I started to work with Kundalini energy, especially when I was receiving energy healing sessions, the biggest marker was that my baseline started to shift. So I wasn't walking around being constantly angry or in that state of fear and bracing for impact all the time. I noticed that actually finally my body was able to relax and exhale a little bit and really start being able to take in life for what it is rather than what I was bracing for. And this is what we mean often with living in survival. That's essentially what this translates to, is that your system is so overloaded with tension, with stored emotions that have nowhere to go, that it's only like, imagine your body like a glass, right? And you fill that up to the brim with stored emotions and tensions that you haven't been able to clear through the body. There is nothing else, like you will not be able to experience or sample life through that glass. Like you're not going to be able to have, you know, a different type of flavored juice or some wine poured into that, because it's already filled up with all this gunk that you haven't learned how to let go, because it's not natural for us. We're not being taught. Animals, after a stressful event, immediately shake their bodies. And this is such cliche, but it's so true, and it's so important to be spoken about in connection with Kundalini too, so we can really understand why we work with this energy and why. Another aspect of it is that often Kundalini is being this mystical thing that happens when the body has been prepared and cleared. This is what it means. This is what it means to clear and prepare the body, to start working with it, to move it, to release stored emotions so more life force energy can move through you. Because when that happens, you are deeper plugged into source consciousness, and everything else that all of a sudden start opening up. And when you start experiencing yourself as a multidimensional being, it will no longer be overwhelming and freak you out.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think for the nervous system, what it's really important, what you said about the movement and after it being activated, you're shaking it off and all of these different things. So most people don't realize that when they experience dis-ease in the body, so they have some kind of physical ailment in the body, this is usually a nervous system issue. It's something within the body that's out of alignment. And as Mia said, if you've got a body that's filled with all of this stagnant emotion and density that isn't able to move through your body and move your system, it starts to gather in your different organs and body parts and all of these different things. And when you have a system and a body where energy is able to move and circulate really, really quick, then you're less likely to have these kind of ailments, because we've got over 72,000 energy channels in the body and they all relate to different types of body parts. And so the impact of working with this energy is profound. And we live in the patriarchy, right? So we live in a masculine energy dominant environment where many of us learned that having emotion was unsafe and not to cry and all of these different things. So we've literally been indoctrinated from a very young age
And suppression.
to numb, suppress, to not feel. And then our feminine has been, even like globally across the world, like the feminine has been suppressed so bad that half the time people are just wandering around like purely masculine energy without their Shakti, without their fun, without like their play, without their joy, without their pleasure.
Without being able to cry at the beauty that,
Of life.
nature presents you with. It's like, I cannot shed no tears. I'm not weak. Like, how do we accept these things to be true?
Yeah, 100%. And many people think, yoga. So like when you talk about yoga and energy, they think, oh, like yoga is just, I'm just going to do a bit of stretching, a bit of here, a bit of that. I'm going to yoga class for a stretch. And you're not, you are moving energy. When you are practicing asanas, you are moving energy through your nervous system so that your nervous system can reach what we call regulation. And regulation is it's being able to be present in a rest and digest state, which means that your body has reached a state of like healing and coherence. And regulation means that, okay, I can deal with life stresses without going out of my window of tolerance, which might be over arousal or under arousal because the load in my environment is too much or too little. So being in a state of regulation and experiencing life from this state, it's just a whole different ball game versus being on autopilot, being on that automatic program.
Exactly. You are present, you can choose, you can respond. And this is what we mean by when we say that when you work with Kundalini Shakti, you are teaching your body to hold intensity while remaining present. Because the purpose, like when you move through life, it's never going to be the case that nothing will come and trigger you or nothing will be able to have an emotional reaction from you. Emotions will still be present, but can these emotions move through you without getting you out of center? How quickly can you get back into regulation? And when you're actually intentionally connecting with intense energy moving through you, while you are staying connected to your breath, while you are staying in a relaxed state, you are training your body, your nervous system, that I can remain centered and present while intensity is moving through my system. And that's safe for me.
Yeah, that's powerful.
It's so powerful.
I went to see Dr. Joe Dispenza. I went to see him a couple of years ago. And for anyone that is watching this podcast right now, he has a couple of great books, but one of them is Becoming Superhuman, and it's all around Kundalini. He speaks about it in a different way. He'll talk specifically about life force, but essentially his teachings are able to put things in a way where he relates energy to different brainwave patterns. He teaches the real science behind how this energy moves through our body, and we can use it for creation. So like every thought that we have is also a energy. It's a stream of energy. Every thought that we have is a stream of energy, and how we're using that. So if anyone is watching this, I would definitely recommend that if you are interested in learning about the science about Kundalini, that you have a look at some of his content, which is yeah, it's super helpful. When I went to see him, there was like 5,000 people all meditating together, all doing Kundalini breath work, and he got people on the stage to demonstrate what it's like to do breath works, do short postures, and go straight into connection with source. And you can physically see people just in this incredible state of bliss, this incredible state of oneness. And this is our birthright. Like, it is everyone's birthright to have access to these states. It's not just for Maya, it's not just for me. We all have the capacity to.
Chosen few and the gurus and the masters.
It's who you are. It's who
Exactly.
you are at the deepest level, and it's whether or not you feel called to access them states in this lifetime. But I would 100% recommend that if you're looking for a scientific approach, that you check him out.
Yeah, and I often find that it's very powerful to look at things from various perspectives. So understanding it spiritually, understanding the different cultural aspects of it, like we were speaking about it, like as Kundalini or as Chi or as life force energy, because by seeing that same force, life force energy from different perspectives and different lenses, that's what really helps to integrate it. And honestly, nothing will be as powerful as the lived experience. So you can read as much as you want about it, or listen to as many podcasts as you want. Unless you tap into the energy within yourself, it's all just going to be entertainment for the mind. And this energy is not meant to be something that is forever fantasized or intellectualized. This is our innate journey of self, authority, and empowerment. And we need to walk the path in order to truly understand all of these things every teacher is talking about, which essentially leads me to our next point that we wanted to speak about, and that is actually what is happening in a Kundalini activation ceremony, for example, from a very practical perspective, when we take away the weird body shakings and woo-woo aspects of what is truly going on in a space that both you and I usually hold space for.
Yeah, brilliant. So from my teachings and my understanding is that when I'm doing a energy activation, I am in essence opening up my energy field so that other people that are in my presence, my energy starts to activate their own internal life force. So I think that every single facilitator that you work with, they'll have their own kind of unique energy. Like, every person has their own unique energy. Like, when you meet them and you'll feel them, every person has unique energy. But I am opening up the field, and once I've opened up the field, that individual then is able to receive an activation, activates their own internal life force. Then Shakti within them will start to open and unlock their channels. The intelligence moves the way that it feels is necessary. There is certain elements where, intensity and managing intensity and flow of energy through the body. So when I'm channeling energy, literally, like, the moment that I start channeling, you could see it like swirl through the top of my head. So managing the intensity to which that I'm allowing others to be activated. But in essence, if I wanted to, I could leave a room. I could open up the field, put some music on, and leave a room. Like, all of these things where you see when people are like moving hand postures and all of these different things, like, they can add to the experience. But from my understanding, it's not, once you've opened up the field, and it will just do what it's meant to do. Whatever medicine is needed in that moment.
Yeah, it does. And then there's also the aspect of it of as the facilitator holding the field, where you, like, during the process, there are certain kind of like emotions or densities like that can come up in that process. So it can often present itself like, for example, fear or doubt or other kind of these little interactions that can kind of drop in during the process, which is why it's so important that the facilitator who holds that field is able to remain intact and in integrity to that highest frequency, and not distort the field by dropping into or following the loop or the pools of the energies that are kind of moving through and clearing out, and can suck you into a fear cycle or like essentially distraction or distortion in the field. And the capacity to do that will essentially depend on the facilitator and the depth that they have been able to meet themselves and hold themselves through when it comes to their inner shadows and their fear and their own processes. Because let me give you an example. If someone is having a pretty deep release because their body is ready to let go of something very painful, for example, and I'm holding the space and I see this release unfolding and it scares me, that's where I essentially, the field is no longer in integrity because I am now tuning into a frequency of fear rather than holding source unity consciousness, so that highest frequency in my own channel.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Yeah.
I have had a session before where I'm like, fucking hell, like, this is intense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like,
So I
and if
can
you don't have,
really feel that.
if you don't work through that, and it leads back to what we spoke about in previous episodes, like the integration of mastering the energy within yourself, where you face your own fears and your own doubts head on, and all these things like, you are demonic, and you see someone else doing demonic stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, they were right, this is demonic, I'm just gonna get out of here. You guys, good luck finishing that process. I hope that won't store in your body as another trauma, to sort out later with someone else.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
And that's also such a good point.
Just kind of wanted to touch on from a biological perspective is that as mammals, we are kind of like, we have these little antennas like to each other's nervous systems, which I found super cool when I learned this. So like if you have, let's say, 15 people in a room who are like super freaked out and triggered and going through like, their nervous system is just like firing. And you have one person who walks into that room who is completely anchored and stable and holding a stable frequency. Exactly, because it's so powerful. And hold the stable frequency, all the unstable nervous systems will naturally, like this is pure biology, naturally start to attune to the most stable currents. So it's like when I heard this, I'm like, this is incredible. Like it blows my mind because, people talk about be the change you want to see, carry your own light into the world. One candle will light up a whole room of darkness. What does that mean? Well, biologically, it actually means that your nervous system is like the strongest antenna if you are anchored and if you are stable and balanced. People around you will naturally attune to it. You don't even have to do anything. It's biology.
Wow. I just learned something new there. I love
it's
that.
It's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah, I do know like within like organizations and stuff like that, you attune to leaders. So if a person above you, if their nervous system, if they can't hold it, like your nervous system gets absolutely like thrashed. My last job, my leader couldn't, and it ruined my nervous system. It absolutely
100%.
ruined it because I could hold it. I could hold all of that, but he didn't have the
it's not just people, like, you know, a company has its own consciousness too. So if you have a leader or an owner of a business who doesn't do their own spiritual work, it will impact the company's consciousness. It's a whole other rabbit hole to go down. But I mean, nothing is separate. Just because we call this corporate and this is spiritual, it's not going to be separate from each other.
Yeah, 100%. It's still energy.
Yeah. And I guess another thing that's quite important to touch on is just to understand that when you do drop into a Kundalini activation ceremony, and what I have noticed that tends to be the biggest challenge for most people, it's not necessarily like we said, it's a very simple process. Your body chooses to attune to the frequency that I'm holding, and magic happens. But how do you get to the state that you feel safe enough and you can surrender deep enough into the intelligence of your body? And this is kind of what leads back into creating a state where the energy is not stagnant in your body. So when we do hold space for someone, I would say the biggest challenge is to lead them into that state where they can drop into that full surrender and truly feel what happens in their bodies, which I find is very powerful through some movement, and just really to get into some somatic practices that help you get out of your head as much as possible. So by the time it comes to surrender and receive, you are not thinking about what's happening an hour later. You are in the state of feeling your body.
Yeah. I help people to understand what might go through their mind. So I help them to go like, your mind may be very active, and I want you to bring your awareness into your body, and what that looks like and what that feels like is this. And then I say, like, finally, like, if you're struggling with it, like, my touch is the most like powerful, potent, orgasmic regulating thing in the entire planet. If you need me to like guide you down into it and just be with you personally for a moment, just like put your hand up and I will guide you down. Especially like where I was doing them in the UK, no one really has like heard of it. So I was dealing with people that like fresh out the womb basically, who'd never experienced them kind of things before. So yeah, just really helping to explain what might be going on for them. And actually, this is about your time with your body, to be present with your body and let it feel what it's been like dying to feel for a long time. And a lot of people say, like, for the first time ever, they've felt safe in the body. Beautiful. Yeah. And then they go back to real life.
And it's part of the process, right?
100%. And I think that the somatic movement, like when you are living with the level of embodiment that we are, like somatic movement, daily breath work, like it's just non-negotiable now, because you do become like this sensitive person where like energies will latch onto you because you've got capacity, because you've got room, because you've got space. And when you are triggered, like prior to going for a Kundalini awakening, I probably wouldn't have even known anything bothered me. Now it's like a big, like, I know that I've been triggered. Like, it's a real visceral feeling in the body, and then I can feel into it and go, like, what are you trying to teach me here? So it's almost like they just become like your biggest teachers of what's not complete, or what's unaddressed, or what's not finished.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Is there anything else? I think we kind of touched on everything we wanted to bring into it. There is obviously other ways to continue demystify Kundalini, which we will continue as and how things are unfolding. If you guys enjoy this episode and like to stay connected, because we're going to bring a lot more different perspectives and all the questions that perhaps, a Google search is just not going to give you that satisfactory answer to. This is what we're discussing and bringing into different perspectives on this channel. So make sure you stay connected, follow us, follow either on YouTube or on Spotify, wherever you're listening to it, or leave us a comment with any questions that you have that you would like to address next time around.
Thank you.
Thank you. Until next time. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.